Keys, 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 what's the keys? Keys, 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 what's the keys? Keys, 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 what's the keys? What's the keys to the victory? I'm going to tell y'all what the keys are to victory for both fighters and how I see it going. Who do I believe is going to win? Y'all will hear at the end of this fight. Really, I don't like doing pre-fight predictions before the weigh-ins because I like to see how both guys look on the scale. Now, with heavyweights, it's a little different because you don't have to worry about fighters being weight drained like you do in the lower tier. Not lower tier, but lower weight classes. So it's a little easier with this, but at the same time, in this particular fight, I would like to see if AJ's heavier, lighter. I would like to see if Ruiz is the same, heavier or lighter. So there's certain things that will dictate or sway my opinion on how the fight will go by how much they weigh and what they look like on the scale. With that being said, assuming both men come in around the same size, this is what this prediction is too. And if they're drastically different, I will do another pre-fight prediction as I don't like being wrong. So let me drink some water real fast. Let's get into it. All right. So let's move my chair out the way. So also, I'm going to try later on today to get out another video about how a subscriber of mine should have fought his fight. And it pretty much plays well into this fight because it was a taller man versus a shorter man, just like AJ is a taller man versus Ruiz, who is the shorter man. So the keys to victory for AJ are, as I discussed before, AJ has a really, let me get down real fast, has a really bad problem with shelling up, meaning that when he has a barrage of punches landed on him, he just guards here and he'll press back and he'll guard, but he won't throw, he won't try to step around, he won't try to clinch. He just eats the punches and doesn't fire. And if he does fire, it's so slow that it's telegraphed and he gets countered. Like he was getting countered all fight in the first fight against Ruiz. He's shown this before in other fights against, say, Dillian White. There's been other times when you can see him getting pressed that he shells up a lot. Instead of looking for the counter or returning, he's just pure blocking. And when you get to a certain level in professionals, pure blocking is not going to help you because most fighters won't get tired at a top tier level of hitting you in your guard because you've done it so much throughout your life. Hitting heavy bags that don't move is no different than hitting a shelled up person. It's like bag work, except the only difference is whenever you're doing barrages on a person who's shelled up, not only are you hitting them, but the more you're hitting them is the more you're seeing they're not returning fire. So you have the opportunity to look around and find weak spots and that defense to come underneath them elbows, to come in between the arms if it's wide, to come around the back of the guard, to try to hit the side of the face here. So that's the issue with shelling up when you get to a higher level of boxing, that people are going to be hitting you, but the whole time they're unloading punches on you, they're looking for spots to get through punches and hurt you. And the more you don't return fire, the more they're going to hit you. And the quicker the work rate's going to be. And then the thing that hurts you the most, what a lot of people don't understand is single punches, like say Deontay Wilder throws, is not what really hurts you in a fight. It's when you have variation of power. What does that mean? It means when you're being tapped by little things that don't hurt, then all of a sudden, bam, you're hit hard. And then you're being tapped again, and then bam, you're rocked again. The thing is, when you just have somebody unloading heavy shots on you, bam, 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 it's almost like your body adapts and adjusts to what you're being hit with so you can absorb it better. But when you're getting little pity patters and you don't know when the power's coming, you can't brace for it and you absorb it all, or at least a lot more absorption than you normally would off of just straight nonstop powers because you're bracing for what's coming. Now, with that being said, AJ's weakness. Here's what AJ needs to do. AJ says his offense is his defense. That is a negative against this particular fight. Andy Ruiz, as he showed, is very skilled. You got to understand, even though AJ has been at a higher level of boxing than Ruiz as far as title fights go, Ruiz has a much longer history of boxing from a child, 6 years old. I believe he said at 6 he was fighting 12-year-olds. Now, I know you can't really correlate kids fighting to adults fighting, but it is experience regardless. And when you've seen so many different looks, and especially with Andrew Ruiz being heavyweight, when you're used to being shorter against taller, you're very experienced, so you know how to slip. And the thing, if I remember correctly, that caught AJ was the most dangerous punch when you're a tall fighter, the overhand. If it's traditional, the overhand right. If it's southpaw, the overhand left is very scary for a tall fighter to get caught by. And normally that's the beginning of the end if overhands start landing. The thing with the overhand is, because of the angle of it, you can put a lot more torque and body weight into it when it lands, and you're coming, most punches you're coming up with, right? Not only are you coming up with your power on the overhand, but now you're also, once you connect, driving it down. So it's almost like if you think of a mortar round being shot out of a cannon or a mortar tube, whatever. It goes up, right? It's got a lot of force coming up, but when it hits that arch and comes down, that's when the power really comes in. It's the same thing with the overhand. It's a very, very strong punch. And you got to be careful with short guys. With that being said, AJ cannot use his offense as his defense. He needs to be defensively sound in this fight against Ruiz. What he needs to do is use the reach, use the height, and don't come forward. Lean back, using leaning back. Now, he's more traditional boxing. It's like this stance where the center line is still not like an MMA. It's open, but you're here to throw more power. You can snap more into your jab. He needs to try to go more Philly shellish against a shorter guy who's really good at the overhand right. So that way he can use his body length and his lower arms to lean back when they're coming. So you can see it, and you can put your shoulder up and use the shoulder here to block your chin and roll with the overhands if you miss. Then a proper punch, I'll talk about this too. What he needs to be doing is, when you throw the jab, it should be here. So your chin is protected. Well, you're always looking down. So not looking down, but your head should always be down so your throat's not exposed. And then you should be looking up through your eyebrows. So you're like this. So then when you're here and you punch, you see how much is protected just by my punch? My shoulder is blocking the whole side of my head. All that's here is top. Now, the top of your head is the hardest part of your head. So you're less likely to get knocked loopy off of that. It's when they catch you here on the side of the face and around the temple area that hurts you the most. So the thing I'm trying to say with that is, when he's here, his punches should be coming here, and if he sees it and he misses, not only doesn't have to worry about blocking back, but he can now roll and use this to send the overhand over his head by just leaning his long body back. So I'm looking for AJ to, when he jabs, to have a wider stance, more leaning back, not looking for pure power stance coming forward like he normally does against Ruiz. He needs to fight him like Ruiz is a shorter man, which he is. He's much shorter. So the dynamics of your stance needs to change if you're AJ. So he needs to get more here so he can lean more back and jab him. And if he sees that overhand coming, all he's got to do, since he's already here, is just roll with it. Roll with it. And let it go straight over. And if you can go underneath it, because he's already shown in the last fight that he can get under some of Ruiz's punches, as a taller man, once you're here and you send that to either, if you get caught here, or even if you're here and you're underneath, he's here, his arms are going to be here, and you can come straight down with the right, which is AJ's moneymaker anyways. So there, bow. So with that being said, I need to see AJ stand a little different. When Ruiz comes forward, AJ needs to be flicking the jab and backing up, flicking the jab, backing up. And when he starts getting close to the ropes, he needs to flick the jab and start circling around, circle away from Ruiz's power, and just keep tapping him, tapping him, tapping him. If you get him backing up, and that's when you come forward tapping him, and it's rinse and repeat. Once you come forward tapping him, and then he makes the forward movement back, when you start backing up towards the ropes, when you feel like you're, because you got to understand, when you box a lot, you know where the ropes are. You can use your peripheral, and you're used to going back and forth so much. Sorry, y'all. I've been sick. Now, without even seeing the ropes, you know where they are. You know where the corners are. So once he gets to that, oh shit zone, I'm getting close, he needs to start circling and tapping. Also with that, if he sees Ruiz come in and he's just flicking the jabs off, he needs to wait, watch Ruiz when Ruiz makes that real move forward, because most movements are going to be real slow, especially when you're coming in. Because Ruiz has extremely fast hands, but not a lot of fast body movement. He's not like Mike Tyson that's going to be in and out real fast. So with Ruiz, you can take your time setting him up, setting him up, setting him up. And the minute you see, because he's slower, he goes to make that move to come in, you come straight down the pipe. With the straight, bow. And either if you can hop back, you hop back after you connect, or you hit him and you roll off. If you get beside him to now where he's here, his body's facing this way, and you're here, you come around the side with the straight. You just hit him in the side of the head, and then you go right back. Jab, jab, out. Even if you get him hurt, don't get greedy. The problem with AJ is in their first fight, I believe it was the third round where he knocked him down, he got extremely greedy trying to finish him when he should have backed off and not thrown caution to the wind like he did. This is a 12-round fight. You don't have to knock him out in the third round. Stretch the fight out. Use your strength. Outside of that, if AJ does get caught against the ropes to where Ruiz was very good at getting AJ squared. Now, once you're squared, you don't have any leverage to throw punches. So, Ruiz was doing it by staying inside of AJ's guard and getting around to square him up against the ropes. So now AJ really doesn't have a lot of power going back. So AJ's got to be very careful about squaring against the ropes. He needs to make sure that if he touches the ropes, his back foot, his power foot, is always slightly underneath the rope. So that way he can stay angled. Mayweather was a very good person at looking at this. You'll see Mayweather all the time angled on the ropes. So he could always pick back with his sharpshooting straight. AJ needs to look more to that type of style for this fight, especially if he gets close. Now, if he gets him squared against the ropes, the first thing AJ needs to do is clinch. Clinch, 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 clinch. Clinching is going to be his best friend, but he's got to be very careful when going to clinch because he's coming down, all right? So when you're coming down and you're against a shorter guy who can square you, which is bad if you're the taller guy and you're squared, you're leaving yourself open to uppercuts. And a shorter man coming up is very dangerous for your chin. So when he goes to clinch, he's got to watch where Ruiz's hands are positioned. So if he is going to grab, he can keep at least one hand angled down and only have to worry about moving the other hand to block hooks or straights. Straights can be a jab or a straight right. So that's the main thing. He's got to position one of his hands down to protect his chin and have the other one free. So when he comes, it's almost like a one-hand grab and then immediately throw over the other hand. Now, something that's been lost in boxing that was really big in the probably mid-90s and down was working the clinch to tire the other fighter. The taller man, what you normally want to do is, if you've got height on somebody and you clinch them, you want to try to slip your hands down to their lower back. When you do, you squeeze in a little. So you're putting all that weight on their lower back and they can't lean forward to counterbalance your weight. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your chin and you want to put it over the back of their shoulder and hook it. And then all you're doing is when you're here squeezing and you hook that chin, you lean forward. And once you lean forward, if you have, like my chair was the shoulder, right? Say the head's here. You're coming here. You're putting it here. You're coming down. You're squeezing. And then you're angling your body almost like you're trying to stuff a takedown. And you're just putting all your weight on them and making them hold you up. You're doing nothing but just squeezing a little bit through your arms, using your tippy toes. Let's come here. Get back so I can do this lean. You're just like this, leaning on them, leaning on them, leaning on them till the referee separates. And what that causes their legs to get tired, their back to get tired, and it can actually sap their stamina further down the road. Another thing AJ needs to work on is his endurance. I don't know how much endurance he's been doing, but you got to understand Saudi Arabia is hot as shit. So when you have stamina issues, going to some place that's in a desert is not the best. But at night, deserts get extremely cold. So it could work out to his benefit depending on the time of day and where the sun's positioned when they fight. Outside of that, the clinch, he needs to start clinching more when Ruiz gets close to him. So it needs to be like a Emmanuel Stewart trained fighter for this fight. A Klitschko, Lewis, make it very boring, but you're protected. If he can't clinch, what he's got to do this time is like I was explaining before. He's got to learn to, with him having a more angular stance, he's got to learn to lean back with the punches and then just do short hooks, short uppercuts, just enough to get the respect of Ruiz. And if he ever pops Ruiz's head back, that's when he comes straight down the pipe and hits him. Bow! Straight down. So short, 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 short. I'm doing it from different angles. When he's up on here and you're blocking with the movement of your body. You can still block, but short, 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 short. Notice how my guard never really leaves my face. It's just boom, you're blocking, boom, you're blocking, boom, you're blocking. The whole time you're blocking everything. And those are counters that you do as a taller man to a shorter guy. And like I said, leaning back, so you already have that weight loaded. So when you do pivot, boom, you're coming down with the weight to hit them. Boom, boom. You're using all legs to push through your punches, and you're just turning your hips while you're guarding. That's really where the power is in a punch anyways. Let's see, what else can AJ do to really control this fight? It's just my main thing to not go on for 5 hours with this breakdown of how AJ should fight is he cannot let Ruiz press him to the ropes and unload on him. In training camp, AJ should have been training on people unloading on him. I'm a little scared from him because I believe I saw that Brian Jennings was in his training camp, and that's not stylistically a good person. Ruiz is not a Brian Jennings style fighter. Brian Jennings is kind of like a David Hayes style fighter. He's bobbing and weaving, coming in, tap, 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 tap. Ruiz isn't as good at slipping punches as, say, a Jennings. What he's good at is having super fast hands and doing a Tiger Barrage, like on my X-Men game behind me, Wolverine. Tiger Barrage, that's all he's doing. So you got to get AJ better at returning fire when he's shelled up or negating it by the clinch. Those are the keys to victory. Oh, yeah. And when, like I said, too, whenever Ruiz really makes that step to come forward, hitting him really hard down the pipe. Every time he goes to take that exertive step to get in, you make him pay. Pow! And just circle and stay away. Fight him from the outside. Those are the keys to AJ's victories. Keys for Ruiz's victory is the same thing that he did before. Head movement, slipping underneath the jabs, slipping underneath the straight, coming over with the overhands, getting AJ against the rope. I don't have to go into as many details with Ruiz as I do AJ because Ruiz won the first fight and he gave the blueprint of how he could beat AJ in the second fight. You get him against them ropes, you square his hips off, and then you just barrage him and let him shell up like a turtle, and then you know you got him. Keep hitting him. One thing, though, I need Ruiz to do when he is doing his barrage punches in his fight, he needs to be more guard conscious. Yes, he didn't really need to guard up in their first fight because AJ wasn't returning fire. But if AJ does return fire, Ruiz has got to work on getting them hands back to his chin because when he starts throwing, he's got what I like to call the drift that some fighters, a lot of fighters, they have where their guard starts here, and as they're punching, I shouldn't say it's more like this. They're still punching at the same spot, but that guard is drifting down to where they're just throwing here now instead of coming back here. So that means he's susceptible to a counter punch, a counter straight, or a counter hook. If AJ can just watch him, wait for the hand drift to happen, and then bow, catch him on the chin, like I said, from the guard, because it's real fast. See, touching on that real, another thing that Ruiz needs to watch out for is hooks from here are slow. They're winding. You can see them. Yes, they can have more power because they've got more torque and you've got more time to build up speed, but it's a long punch. It takes a second to get to the target. You can catch people, but it's not as fast. Come in here, and I'm going to move real slow. Just look. I'm not going fast. Boom. Hook, right? Or here. You see the time delay difference? So that's what Ruiz has to watch out for. It's this. It's this. Very little body movement from AJ. So he needs to work on getting his hands back. Because the worst thing that can happen to Ruiz is he has the advantage over AJ. He's got him squared up to where AJ's like this and then gets pow! Hit by a real quick, short left hook that staggers him. Then AJ pops him real hard with the right and now he's on his ass again because he can be knocked down by AJ because he was knocked down in the first fight. The advantage going into this fight, I feel, is in Ruiz's favor. When Ruiz looks at AJ, he looks at him as not a big threat. When AJ looks at Ruiz, I don't see the fire in his eyes. I think mentally, Ruiz has the upper hand. With AJ, he's got to be very careful because Ruiz, once he barrages on him, Ruiz knows all I got to do is get you against the ropes, barrage on you, and this is how I put you away the first time. This is how I got you to go down all them times because you're not going to fire back. So Ruiz's goal is to get him against them ropes and just unload, and it doesn't even have to be hard. Just pity patter him down to the ground like you did before. Now, with that being said, Ruiz said he's coming in lighter for this fight, which I think is a huge negative. Freddie Roach spoke on that. And if he does come in lighter, he's already not a hard puncher. He's not a hard puncher. People could argue, well, he knocked down AJ and he wobbled him with a punch and then yes, rewatch the fight. When he was putting down AJ, it was from several accumulated punches that AJ was absorbing and just not firing back, like I said. And still, when AJ fell, it's almost like he fell from not wanting to be hit anymore. It didn't look like one punch in the barrage actually hurt AJ because he'd go down, he'd take his knee, he'd get back up. He went down, dropped his mouthpiece, got up without his mouthpiece. He went down, I think the third time he kind of fell like this over, got back up. The fourth time he looked like he was exhausted, went down, got back up, was in the corner like this, looking at his corner. The referee was like, come forward if you want to fight. Do you want to fight? AJ said, yeah. Come forward if you want to fight. Do you want to fight? AJ said, yeah, but he didn't take his hands off. Then come forward, and the referee said no more. Now, like I said, did AJ quit in that first fight? I don't know. It's hard to tell because he might not have understood the referee's instructions about coming forward because he was already so buzzed. He had already been down 4 times. And I feel personally like him getting up showed that he wanted to continue. Him putting his mouthpiece back in showed that he wanted to continue. Him telling the referee yes showed that he wanted to continue. I just don't believe that his mind was all there and he didn't absorb what the referee was telling him about coming forward. And to be honest, the referee probably did a good thing for AJ by waving the fight off because if he was already buzzed enough to where he couldn't understand the directions, then it was only a matter of time before he went down again. He might have caught Ruiz with a lucky punch because power is always there, even when you're hurt. But at that point, he was just in bad shape, and Ruiz was fresh. So it was a good stoppage, in my opinion. Again, to recap, AJ's got to use the jab, hit Ruiz coming in with the right, with power, make him pay every time he comes in, stay off the ropes. When he is against the rope, grab him. If he can't clinch up, he needs to look for the short hooks or uppercuts for the counter and not shell up. Andy Ruiz, what he needs to do is keep slipping while he's coming forward, land the overhand that hurt AJ to begin with, and get him against the ropes and just barrage on him and keep his guard higher. He's got to keep that guard higher or he could get countered on an already wounded AJ. Now, the question, the moment of truth. Who do I believe is going to win this fight? I believe Anthony Joshua is going to win this fight. I believe Anthony Joshua didn't know his flaws. I believe Anthony Joshua was overconfident, cocky, and his offense being his defense, which is something a tall man should never say, especially against a shorter guy. And he learned his flaw, and his huge chink in his armor is returning punches when under pressure. If he worked on that, which I believe he did, I believe he can beat Andy Ruiz, because he already showed that one punch from him could put Andy Ruiz down. The reason why I don't think Andy Ruiz will beat AJ in this is it took way too many punches from Ruiz to put AJ away. I'm going to sit down. It took way too many return fire punches for Ruiz to actually finish AJ. And then when he finished AJ, he didn't actually finish AJ. He won by a TKO because AJ just didn't know to walk out the corner, or didn't comprehend it, or maybe he did quit. But the bottom line is, not one punch there ended it, and he was just hitting a moving heavy bag. If you can't defeat somebody by a severe knockout like that, in that many knockdowns, that many rounds after the man's hurt, then to me that shows that you don't have the strength or the power to hurt that person unless you land a well-placed overhand like he did, which I don't think is going to happen again. I think this time AJ is going to be way more conscious of the defense. And another part with AJ is, when people have never been buzzed, they've never taken punches, you've got to have time to recover. And this is a plus for Andy Ruiz. Ruiz never gave AJ the opportunity to get his legs back. He never gave him the opportunity to get his bearings back. He was on him like a shark smelling blood and water. He was on him like piranhas on meat. He was on him, and that's a good way to be. That's a good mentality. And another thing I like about Ruiz is when Ruiz got knocked down, you saw it was a sleeping giant that awoke. Whereas when AJ got knocked down, he never recovered. That's because Ruiz had smart aggression. AJ threw caution to the wind and was just wildly throwing with him in the center of the ring. When Ruiz was throwing at AJ, he had him against the ropes and squared. So I still, with that being said, believe AJ slept on Ruiz. I have Ruiz, truthfully, should be an undefeated fighter. I gave him the fight against Parker. I believe Ruiz is very good, and he is a threat in heavyweight. I just, after seeing how he had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to put AJ away, I don't believe he can put a cautious, defensively sound AJ away. And I believe how AJ caught him in the first fight, he can catch him again, and he has more than enough power to put Ruiz down. And if AJ can stay defensively sound and just pop him with them powers and keep jabbing him the whole night, tying him up, weighing him down with his body weight the whole night, he'll beat Andy Ruiz pretty easily, pretty convincingly, in my opinion. Now, what round do I think this will end in? I don't know. I haven't seen them on the scale. It's very hard for me to say, because the one thing that worries me about AJ is how light is he coming in. Because if he's coming in really light, then I don't even know if he can beat Ruiz, because he's taken away from his power. If Ruiz comes in really light, then he's going to be even in worse shape, and it might cancel each other out. But if Ruiz comes back in 265 or more and AJ comes in, say, 240, I have Ruiz winning again by knockout. Just straight up. He's going to body AJ, and it's not going to matter. So that's my 2 cents to recap, to close it out, because this video has been going on as I was trying to show y'all. I know my breakdown of what Ruiz should do wasn't as much because Ruiz just didn't show a lot of flaws outside of the hand drift against AJ. You know, he walked into a good straight that put him on his ass. But after that, because he adapted so well to AJ's fight style, I don't even need to speak on that because AJ couldn't do it again. So how AJ was fighting the last time, he couldn't land it again. So I don't really need to talk about the head movement and getting out of the way of punches, as Ruiz made a very good account of himself. So I didn't have to go into a lot of details because there's not a lot of stuff that Ruiz has to change up to win again. The changing up in what needs to be different is really on AJ. It's all going to come down to how AJ prepared. I believe AJ can beat him, and I believe he will beat him, and I very well believe it will be a knockout. probably later in the fight. By later, I don't mean super late. I would say that by the 5th round, AJ should have already done significant damage to Ruiz and been making him pay coming in if he fights the way I said he should. So I would be looking at around the 9th round to be the stopping point for Ruiz, to where he's just accumulated too much damage. Thank y'all for watching. If y'all need me to do any more, try to explain things anymore, y'all are just like, dang, you ramble too much, make these shorter, condense it, I'll do that too. Let me know what y'all think. Thank y'all again for watching. And again, there's another video coming out tonight.